Just checking how many of you are sleeping. For me, it's a habit because, as your mom was telling, I too mentor students. I've nearly mentored 2,000 students till now, from different backgrounds: arts, commerce, science, you name it. Before I begin what I wanted to speak, I wanted to touch upon something that I consistently kept hearing from multiple students, right, about failures. And this is quite often I hear it from most of the youngsters wherever I go. I'll give you a brief, okay? Kamalan sir, I studied in an army school, okay, with a clear mindset that I wanted to be in defense. Now this is where things go against the flow in your life, right? Somebody who didn't had any idea where he wanted to go ended up somewhere. I, with a clear idea, I wanted to be there, I never ended up there. So I finished my 12th from army school. Of course, we were prepared for NDA much better. Cleared my NDA, and I messed up in medicals. Couldn't clear. Then I said, let me take one more chance. So I did CDS. Again, CDS got cleared, medical got messed up. Now, of course, anybody and everybody at home, relatives said, guys, you're not meant for army. You're not meant for defense. Maybe when they said that, I questioned myself, yes, these are not failures. These are stepping stones to do something better than what you are thinking of doing. So each time you fail, just think that's a stepping stone, that you are bound to do something better than what you are thinking of doing. Okay, with that, let's start with a big question, right? Now, how many of you who are seated here, speakers, everybody, how many of you would say that currently the path that you are following didn't excite you anymore? Will you stay or will you switch? A recent study by LinkedIn said 67% of the professionals, okay, in the industry wanted to switch their career, and it's across, not somebody I'm talking from the corporates, across. People wanted to switch their careers, and only 26% of them actually switched. Why do you think so? No opportunities? Because it's scary. Change is scary. People don't want change. People don't like change. Right? How do I know it? Because this is something I have done, not once, not twice, but 3 times in my 21 years of corporate experience. I studied computers, but never pursued my career in technology. I did an MBA in marketing, but started with investment banking. I was part of the growing investment banking industry, but I pivoted back to marketing. And after all of this, they say, right, some people are never satisfied in life, and I'm one of them. I ended up becoming an author. Each time I switched, people raised their eyebrows. And each time that happened, I learned something valuable. This is the story of how going against the flow exactly led me to where I had to be in my life. So let's start with the first detour, leaving tech. Let's rewind 24 years ago. Doing my engineering. Again, why? Because it's a safe bet, right? You ask anybody, at least if some people who have completed the graduation of engineering 22, 23 years ago would know computer was the most safest bet, because everybody said you can make a good career here. Everybody, family, friends, professors, seniors, everybody said it's going to be a very lucrative career being here. So I started programming, spent years learning programming, debugging. But somewhere in all of this, I started feeling that my true strength or passion actually lies in storytelling, in understanding people's behavior, negotiating, persuading. But I said, let's give it a chance, let's continue. Then when I graduated, I had 2 choices. One, take up a job in tech, because 2000s were the time when tech was just booming. So I have friends who studied with me, today are almost CEOs. Okay? else admit that I'm not cut out for this and switch the path. I did the second one. Okay. People's reactions? What do you think people's reaction would be? You have put in so much of hard work for so many years, learning programming, learning technology. You want to just give it away. Technology is the next big thing. You cannot just leave it like that. But this is what I thought. I don't want to do something which doesn't excite me or something that I'm not passionate about all my life. Rather, I took a leap. I started working into sales for a year and then ended up doing my MBA in marketing. Now, that's the first one. The second one is from marketing to investment banking. Now, this is where it gets interesting. When I started doing MBA, I of course had a passion, as I said, to the areas, allied areas of marketing or sales. When I actually started getting into understanding the concepts, in parallel, I got a lot fascinated by numbers. I've always been fascinated by numbers. I'm a maths guy. I believe in numbers. I think everything has to be measured some way or other. If you cannot measure it, it's difficult to value it. That's my perspective. So I got pulled towards numbers, basically towards stock markets and capital markets. I started tracking markets day in, day out. I started understanding how investment strategies are designed. And then, how does company financials make what organizations are today? Then, as I finished my MBA, an opportunity came knocking to me where I got a job in an investment bank. I just grabbed it. What do you think the people's reaction would be this time? The first thing is, you said you are not cut out for tech, you moved to marketing. And now you are saying you don't want to be in marketing either, or you don't want to start in marketing. Do you really know what you want in life? There's one thing that I knew is all of this was a calculated risk based on my knowledge and my strengths. It was not a fluke. This was giving me a wonderful opportunity to be part of a world where I could understand how investment banks work, how money moves in this world, and how financial systems work. So I grabbed it, and it paid off. Over the next couple of years, I became pretty strong in investment banking operations, understanding international markets, plus understanding international clients' expectations. But again, somewhere, right, had an itch. I felt something is missing. And that's when the big pivot happened. I moved back to marketing. What happened? So basically, after spending a couple of years in investment bank, one thing I realized is I'm not here just to understand how businesses operate. I rather wanted to help organizations build and grow business. Why? Because I always thought that I have gained enough experience to understand how business runs. And that would not just make me a typical sales guy, somebody who's more of a smart solution thinker, somebody who can actually help understand client requirements better and aid business development. So I switched and I became a part of marketing, specifically into pre-sales and solutioning. And I've been spending my last almost 15 years into the same field, including to date. Now, after all of this, the next bold move that came was 2 years ago, when I thought of becoming an author. What drove it? So after spending for almost more than 2 decades in the industry, I somewhere felt that I have gathered enough experience, enough knowledge that I can share with the coming generations. But the question is, because you already have enough on your plate. I'm a vice president with an organization. I already have enough targets, enough things to do. Do you think you want to do this? That was the question that was posed to me. I said, why not? I don't know how many of you have read about it. Nearly 81% people in this world actually think of writing a book once in their life. But only 1% actually end up doing it. and I didn't want to be part of the 81%. So I pulled out time, late nights, early mornings, weekends, whenever I get time. I squeezed in, spent time, and created my final manuscript. I ended up publishing my first book, which has become an Amazon bestseller 2 years ago. And that gave me a push. In next 10 months, I published my second book, which is on the stores available now. What are the lessons that I learned going against the flow? I'm sure, hope by now you would have at least got a fair idea that I have gone enough and more times against the flow, and people say, don't do this. I say, why not? But please understand, there are certain things that I learned when I went against the flow. The first, your first choice doesn't need to be your final choice. A computer science degree didn't define my future. If something doesn't fit into your curiosity to build yourself, change it. Second, passion plus skills leads to success. My passion for numbers helped me get into investment banking, and marketing taught me creativity. When I combined both of them, I became better at business development. Third, every detour or every switch is not a failure, it's an upgrade. Each time I went against the lot, I wasn't trying to start back again. It was I was adding new skills to my own bucket. Last, if you are excited about something, make time for it. With all my busy schedules, I still ended up writing a book, which means if something matters to you, you will find a way for it. Now, let me ask you all two questions. First one, how many of you feel that you are following a path where you actually don't fit in? You are there just because it is safe. Second, how many of you think that you are making choices that really excite you and not because that is what is expected out of you? Most of us make choices because we want to make somebody else happy. Please understand one thing. Going against the flow is not becoming rebellious. It's about listening to yourself. When the entire world is telling you the other way around. Every detour, every switch, again, is not a mistake. It actually has helped me evolve. Final thoughts? No journey in this world is a straight road. And that's the beauty of it. Because the winds and turns and twists that you get through the journey makes you a better driver in any terrain. Lastly, I will leave all of you with a quote, a famous quote by Steve Jobs. I don't know how many of you have heard it. Okay? He said, you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backward. What does it mean? In your life, there will be significant changes that happen. At that point of time, you'll not understand why is this happening with me. But only once it happens, retrospect, you'll be able to understand why this happened with me. Thank you.